Hey y'all, hey, it's JJ Conway and I'm here with Kamille Thomas. We are so excited for you to be here with us on our Think and Grow Rich. Oh, y'all, if you missed the last lesson on desire, then you missed a real treat. So you need to go back and get it while it's still broadcast out there for free, right? Before we pull it down. But today we've got another fantastic lesson on faith. And before we dig into it, because of the nature of the connection between faith and desire, how faith is the visualization of and the attainment of desire. We were talking just before backstage about the need to really clarify desire and how do we walk ourselves through making sure that our desires are crystal clear. See, the reason a lot of us get drama and confusion back out of life is because that's all we're broadcasting out. And so what I want to do is if you have our version, if you have my version of the book here, we're going to go to page 36 and it's line 90, and this is an outline of the steps to codifying your desire. So he says here in line 86, the method, let me hold it up here. I feel like I've got some feedback. Let me make sure it's not my phone because this is so important. Okay, phone is off. I don't know what to think of that. I hope you guys can hear us okay. If you can, just let us know. We're so excited that you're here. Hey, Miss Jackie, we're so happy that you're here. Some people might say, well, Camille's mom is going to support because that's her baby. But I'm going to tell you something. My parents don't come on my videos. So, and it took a long time for my dad before he passed. It took him a long time to feel like he could refer people to his daughter. Like that was my sign of respect. Like he would send people to me for financial and real estate advice, right? Like I was like, okay, I feel like I've arrived now. All right. So that means the world to me. And I'm sure it means the world to Kamille. All right. But all right. And so here on page 36, he says in line 86, the method by which desire for riches can be transmuted into its financial equivalent consists of 6 definite practical steps. If you're taking notes today, do not miss this. We have Lysandra. Oh, girl, you are here at the right time and in the right place because this right here will unlock the secrets of this book for you. All right. First, be definite as to the amount. Okay. I know a lot of us, especially people of faith, are very uncomfortable talking about money in specific amounts that we want, but there is a psychological reason for definiteness, which will be described later in a subsequent chapter. Okay. He says, second, determine exactly what you intend to give in return for the money you desire. And he says, there's no such reality as something for nothing. Okay. No such reality as something for nothing. So we want to be clear about what we want, and then we want to be clear about what we're willing to give in exchange for what we want. Third, establish a definite date when you intend to possess the money you desire. Now, we have often heard about dates and setting smart goals, setting big goals, setting BHAGs, big, hairy, audacious goals. It's often this, whatever kind of goal, people talk about a date. But the reason we want to put this date, again, is going to be described later in the book. But the date makes it more real. It gives definiteness and focus to what we want. See, it's really, really easy for Kamille to say, JJ, I want to make more money. I want to make more money this year. And I can pull a 20 out of my wallet and I can give her the 20 and be like, boom, you made more money. And she might be like, that is not what I wanted. I want to be able to stay home with my children and my schooling and with my mom and do all these other things. And that's the kind of money I want. And I might say, well, you know what? You can have that. You can have that on public assistance. No, that's not what I want. Well, let's get clear about what you want. Okay, let's get clear about what you want. See, I was never clear about what I wanted. I was real clear about what I didn't want. And Kamille, what happens when we're real clear about what we don't want?
We get that which we don't want. It just happens. It's just, one of those laws of life that,
Where your focus goes, your energy flows, and that energy
exactly.
comes back to you. All right. So third, we want to establish a definite date of when we intend to possess it. And now, number 4, create a definite plan for carrying out your desire and begin at once, whether you are ready or not, to put this plan in action. Whether you're ready or not, whether your office looks good or not, whether your outfit, well, wait, no, please match your outfits because you want to be an expert. I shouldn't have said that, but you know what I'm saying. Like, you don't have to be perfect to get started. I used to think, oh, if I can't get my hair just right, I am not going on camera. But you know what? It's more about the spirit, and it's about the movement forward and the
Yeah.
consistency of showing up. All right. Woo. I'm about ready to pass the basket here. Fifth, write a clear, concise statement of the amount of money you intend to acquire, name the time limit for its acquisition, state what you intend to give in return for the money, and describe clearly the plan through which you intend to accumulate it. Now, see what we have done here. We have taken it from being something that we're thinking about, and we have translated that into words on paper. This uses a different form of your brain and it communicates something else. Now those words are on paper. And just like scripture says, we can be ensnared with the words of our mouth. We can also be blessed and encouraged and uplifted with the
Yes.
words of our mouth. So
Yeah.
we're going to write it out on paper. And then sixth, this is where most of us fail, y'all. This is where most of us fall off the wagon. Read your written statement aloud twice daily, once just before retiring at night and once after arising in the morning. As you read, see and feel and believe yourself already in possession of the money.
Yeah.
Now we are going to make an offer to those of you who are paid students of the class, that if you'd like to sit down and do a workshop where I share with you my desire statement and we sit down and really nug out your desire statement, you will have that opportunity. If you have not already, however, joined the class, this is an excellent opportunity for me to remind you that the doors to the I was about to say the doors to the church.
Church.
Please forgive me. Lord, please forgive me.
The
Oh my
doors of
goodness.
the church are now
Uh,
open.
I'll tell you what. The doors to the class are open now. Now the early bird bonus expired at the last class, but we do still have $300 off. So instead of $499, you're only paying $199. And if I were you, I'd get in on that before we do the workshop on your desire statement because it's so powerful. Even for me, and I've been doing this for years, y'all, looking at that statement and saying, okay, these are the things I said I was going to do. Here's my definite plan to do it. Ooh, I haven't been working out 30 minutes a day. No wonder I'm a little tight in my new speaking outfits. Ooh, I haven't been making my phone calls like I said I would. And so it's a way of holding yourself accountable. But reading it out loud does multiple things. Now you're reading, you're hearing yourself, and you're speaking. And all of that combined together enhances and elevates your energy so that you will actually press through and get it done. All right. So I want to thank my co host, Kamille, for giving me an opportunity to kind of loop back around on that one.
Yes.
And
Let me
so,
say something before we move on real quick, JJ. I just want to give you a testimony.
all right now.
No, it's these desire statements are so powerful, and I'm gonna tell you, my mom is on here, I'm sure, but I'm gonna share her story anyway. She didn't ask me to. I won't put the amount on there, but I'm gonna share her story. Last year, she wrote down on a piece of paper, actually, it was a napkin, the amount of money that she wanted to acquire by a certain date. She came to visit me this year, and she got some, stuff and got this amount of money. But she goes, "Oh my goodness, Kamille." I said, "What?" She wasn't expecting it. She said, "Oh my goodness, Kamille, look at what I wrote last year. And look at the date which I said I would acquire it by. We had just we had just passed that particular date. And that doesn't matter. She wrote it down. She didn't even ask for that. Well, she asked for a specific amount. And then what she expected to get was something totally different. But that amount was increased. And it literally hit that mark and surpassed it. And she wasn't, I think subconsciously she was expecting it because she wrote it down. She even put the date at which she would acquire it. And it was a few days after that date, which that actually happened. And she carried that little piece of paper, a little napkin in her purse with her every day for the last year. And that desire statement actually manifested. So I'm telling her
Yes.
story. I know she just put on here that, go ahead and tell it, but that's the power of doing that. And we also talked about, you know, the difference between when we were talking about the desire statement really quickly, and we'll go through it. She said, well, can I just, transfer some money, or, do I have to, how do I feel it? Can I see myself just transferring it from, one account to another? And I told her, I said, you could do that, but it's different when you feel it. I can have $100 bill and I'll keep that $100 bill forever because the feel of it means something to me. It spins differently. There's a different
Yes.
emotional and physical attachment that I have to that rather than just transferring stuff from one bank. I could do that with my eyes closed and never even, miss a beat. It's just the transferring of something that I've never actually seen or felt in its fullness. And so there's a different energy transference when you actually imagine yourself with that, in possession of it, not just sitting somewhere and you're not, being able to reap the benefits or feel the benefit of that thing. But there's a different energy that is created when you really imagine yourself in possession of that which you ask. So I just wanted to share her little story. Not It's not a little story. I'm gonna stop using that word too. It's not a little story. That's a huge thing
That's
because
not a
it was
little story.
something
She
that
said it was six figures.
it was
That's a
six
six
figures. I
figure
wasn't gonna tell
story.
it. Like I said, I don't want people, I'll fight you over my mother.
Yep.
Okay. But no, but it seriously. And she, that day, she sent me that picture and said, Boo, look. That's what she called me. Boo, look. She was like, OMG. And it happened for her. And if it happened for her, it can happen for you.
That's right. That's right. Oh my goodness. Fantastic. Fantastic. Well, and I think this is a good time to transition to faith, because what you've done by sharing that story is you've increased people's faith that these things can be attained by them as well. And faith is so essential. It's so essential. Why don't you share with us a little bit as we approach this chapter? What stands out to you about this chapter on faith?
So, what stands out overall, and then I'll kind of go into it. But first, I want to say last week was powerful too when we did desire. So, like she said, if you have not seen it, go back and relook at that, and that'll bring you to where we are. I got a lot of great feedback on the ideas and concepts. A lot of people said that it really shifted their thinking, and that's that's why we're here. So, coming back to this faith thing, a lot of people, even including myself, up until a couple of years ago, until I was really introduced to Think and Grow Rich and some of the other concepts, I thought I had a level of faith, and I probably did have a level of faith, but my faith really wasn't where it was or where I thought it was. I didn't truly understand what faith was or how to activate it. And I grew up in church my whole life. Okay. Grew up in church my whole life, but they say, oh, have faith, have faith. What does that really mean? And I didn't understand it. But going through this lesson, I went through this lesson a few years ago. It just really brought faith a totally different meaning to my life. Totally different meaning. And faith really does start with our thinking. It's thinking. I remember talking about or thinking about the Jeffersons, right? So this whole study is just really kind of showing people that we can create the life that we want to live, and that's where it starts. And remember the Jeffersons moving on up to the east side to a deluxe apartment in the sky.
In the
I'm not mad
sky.
at them. I'm not mad at them. They wanted to move up. They didn't want to stay where they were. But there was this belief that had to happen in order for them to be able to achieve that deluxe apartment in the sky on the east side. It just didn't happen. They could have stayed in the same place that they were if their faith, their belief, seeing something that wasn't necessarily right in front of them wasn't increased. So this study for me was just, there were so many great nuggets throughout this chapter. For those of you who have the book, I highly suggest that you get it out and you go along with us. But there were so many amazing nuggets that just brought totally different meaning to me. As I went through it, understanding now how faith works, what faith actually is, and how to activate that faith. So it was great for me.
I think for me, even being a person, and this is something that I realized only after becoming a pastor. So for 4 years, I pastored Kingstown Family Life Center in Bossier City, Louisiana, and it was a wonderful experience of growth for me. But one of the things that really humbled me about that experience was discovering that yes, I had faith and yes, I had belief for everybody, but I really did not truly believe God's promises for me. And I could lay hands on folks and pray for them, and they were going to be healed, or they were going to experience the salvation of the Lord, or they were going to experience something powerful in that. And then this is not a preaching thing, but I'm just sharing you my experience of how I came to terms with this. But then when I was going through some really dark times, when I'd been rear-ended in a car accident that ended my military career pretty much, and then going through all the rigmarole that went through that, and crying out before the Lord in prayer, like, I am a pastor and I'm in this situation and I've got these false accusations, and I it's too much and I don't know what I'm doing. And then it was how the Spirit revealed to me, you don't believe. You pray and you believe it for everybody else, but you don't believe that my promises, my wealth, your health, all of that, you don't believe that any of that I have promised you is really for you. And it was just like, whoa. And then, of course, you know what we do. We're like, oh, no. I believe. I have faith.
Yes.
But our results speak for us. Our results go before us. And our results and our energy meet the people that we meet long before we ever open up our mouth. And so today is a day to really reflect, where am I? Do I believe that abundance is for me? Do I believe that wealth and riches are for me? And even if you feel that the Lord has called you to a life of lack, and I don't think as many people I don't think as many people are called to a life of poverty as pretend that they are called to a life of poverty because it makes them feel better about themselves to be called to a life of poverty. I believe that actually more of us have actually been called to develop wealth and to be fine, I don't want to equate wealth with your character or anything, but to be that upstanding member of society who's able to move mountains on behalf of the poor. Somebody's got to have the money. Somebody's got to have the money to fund medical care and to fund all of these different things that even the government programs can't help. Somebody's got to have money to fund the aftercare programs at schools. Somebody's got to have money to fund tutoring for the kids nobody seems to care about, because I was one of those kids that nobody seems to care about. Oh boy, I'm going to get onto it today. But somebody's got to have the wealth. And if you believe that it's not for you because of your religious faith, if that translates into a lack of abundance faith, well, then you're not going to move forward. And I don't want you to be like me. I don't want you to be almost 50 before you figure it out. You got to figure it out today.
That's why we're here, you know. Yeah, some people, don't understand, but you have to, with wealth comes influence. Without a certain level of wealth, there are tables that you'll never be invited to. I'm not saying that, you can't be invited to, but it's a little harder to get there, you have to be able to bring something sometimes to the table, when we don't have that and we're just some Joe Schmo on the street, very few people will listen. But we have faith, we can bring those things into existence that we need to be able to have the influence, to be able to go into the rooms, to be able to speak, where people will listen, and also be an example for those other people that we're trying to bring up, to look up to, and that takes wealth. And I just, when you said that about having faith for other people, it's easy to have faith for other people, I think, in a sense, because the outcome doesn't really affect you. So, I can believe for you all day, and then I could turn around and say, well, if you don't believe for yourself, then that's the reason why. And it's the responsibility of the other person. But then when I have to have faith for myself, then that responsibility falls on me. And a lot of people don't want to bear that responsibility, because then it really challenges how much faith they actually have, or how strong their faith is, or where their faith is. Because like you said, we have faith in a lot of things, and our results show us where our faith is, or how much faith we actually have. It says if you have the faith of a mustard seed, the size of a mustard seed, you can move mountains. Well, a lot of us got some real small faith.
My faith used to be microbial. look, it might not even be microbial. It might even just be one little piece of one little DNA.
You know what I'm saying? When I look at the
Guess
size of
what? I
that
wasn't
mustard
moving
seed,
the
I'm like,
needle in my life. All them years in ministry, I wasn't moving the needle in my life, and I was
yes,
barely doing any impact in somebody else's life. But
yes,
the moment that the faith aligned, and the moment that I realized that faith isn't just inside the walls of the church, it's embedded in everything that we do. That's when the needle began to move. And I'll tell you something, it doesn't take a whole lot of wealth to be able to change your community. It doesn't take a whole lot of wealth to be able to walk in and pay a single mom's water bill for a year. It doesn't take a whole lot of wealth to be able to give enough to the church that people, I mean, not to the church, to the school. Boy, I'm on a church kick today. It doesn't take a whole lot.
yes,
It doesn't take a whole lot of money to give to the school before the school will take notice when you advocate for programs. It doesn't take a whole lot. It just takes some. We got to get the sum and then do what we can with the sum. And the starting point of that sum is faith.
yes. Yes, 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 yes. And I think that if we can go into it, JJ, that
Yes,
first line,
let's.
the very first line of this chapter, what it reads is faith is the head chemist of the mind. When faith is blended with the vibration of thought, the subconscious mind instantly picks up the vibration, translates it into its spiritual equivalent, and transmits it to infinite intelligence, as in the case of prayer. And so, I'm not a preacher or anything like that, y'all, but this just brings me back to, like Hebrews 11:1. Now faith is confidence in what we hope for and assurance about what we do not see. Or Matthew 21:22. If you believe, you will receive whatever you ask for in prayer. And it's that faith and thought that combine to translate it into the infinite intelligence as your petition, your prayer to get what you want. One of my favorites is Matthew 7:7, 7, 8. 7 through 8. Let me say that a little slower. But it's ask and you shall receive, seek and you shall
Yes.
find, knock and the door shall be open to you. For anyone who asks receives, anyone who seeks finds, and the one who knocks on the door, it shall be opened unto him. And I used to tell my when I was deployed, my OIC, we used to talk all the time, and he was like, "Well, you haven't." I said, "Look, you have not because you ask not." I was like, "I don't know." And I used to tell them, and they used to laugh. They're like, "You serious about that?" I'm like, "Oh yes, that is my watchword. You have not because you ask not." And I said, "I believe that anything I ask for, we'll get. As long as we're doing our part, we'll get it." And I was
Mhm.
able to walk in and ask for things that they had never gotten before. And then he got to a point. He said, "Well, do you think you're asking too much?" I said,
Nope.
"According to who?" I said, "According to who?" I said, whoever's on the receiving end, they have the power to say no if I'm asking, but the answer has been yes and amen. Yes and amen. Over and over and over and over. And he was just like, "Oh." So, well, we're gonna have a day off. Well, who gets a day off like that to shut down? They gave it to us. We needed certain things, they gave it to us. And then they even came, well, my commander, after all this stuff, when we were doing things, because we were doing our part as well. But I had faith that if we continue to do what we knew was right, continue to do the things, pressing forward, overcoming these obstacles, that he will continue to say yes. It's kind of like our kids. It's like, well, I don't really have a reason to say no. They've done all their stuff, they've been responsible, for certain things that they want. And every time I went in there to that table and I asked, we received over and over and over again. It was never a no. It was always a yes. And so it's that faith that combined with that thought, that belief in that you're going to get what you ask for, that translated into that infinite intelligence to get what we want.
That's
Our
right.
petition is
That's right.
prayer. So you have not because you ask not. And there's been several instances where that has been so true in my life. And people were like, how did you get that? Or how did you get a yes? And I'm like, I just asked. I
It's
asked, but
such
I
a foreign
believe.
concept to most people. It's like,
Yes.
but you know what? Just ask. You ask and you ask, and sometimes somebody will say no, but if it's for you, it'll come to you. You ask
Always.
and ask, and if it's for you, someone else will work it around. They might say no, but it'll still turn into a yes. And I found that even if it doesn't, it still works out better than if I had kept my mouth shut. Oh,
Absolutely.
they don't want to be bothered. And we apply this to God too. Oh, he don't want to be bothered with my problems.
I asked.
Oh, he don't want to help me. Oh, this is too insignificant for him. But he owns everything in the universe. And he's our father. And I think about my children. I beg them, please ask me. Please ask me. I'm right here. I'm right here. I want to help you, but it's part of your growth to let you struggle through it. Please ask me. And think about how many times have we approached, you and I have both done this. How many times have we approached very influential mentors and just asked for help and received it? Just asked. Just asked.
Simple ask. Man, I tell you, and people, they think it's like this like crazy phenomenon that happens. Like, oh, I had to go. Or who did you? No, I just simply asked, and because I asked, I received. You know, everybody else is probably second guessing their ask, which made room for me to go in and to get my ask. You know, while you guys were over there contemplating why you should or shouldn't, and you wasting time. You know, I just went over there, opened up my mouth, and boom, it was a yes. You know,
All right, I've got a very, very carnal illustration of this. Have you ever wondered why very rude, not necessarily the best looking guys have these super hot girls? And I know that that's going to be offensive to some folks, but I don't know a better way to explain it. Somebody once told me, they said the reason you don't get more dates is because everyone's afraid to ask you out. And I'm like, I'm not even that good looking, but I'll take the compliment. But they said, no, they said a lot of times good guys will not ask out a beautiful woman because he's intimidated. But the guys who figure they have nothing to lose and they really don't care if you like them or not, they'll ask all day. And so then that's what you end up with. I was like, oh my goodness, if we would just apply some of these concepts to our growth, our financial and health and spiritual growth, we would be further along. You have not because you ask not. I appreciate you bringing that in because I think that's so appropriate for today. We just don't believe it. We don't have the faith.
we don't.
But it's time for us to get that faith because it will unlock everything for us.
Everything. Yeah. So what spoke to you? What's another you know, maybe saying or some of the lines that may have spoken to you?
One of the things that really spoke to me is the fact that he is giving us an outline on how to develop faith. And I find that when he says faith is a state of mind which may be induced or created by affirmations or repeated instructions to the subconscious mind through the principle of autosuggestion, which we're going to talk about next week in more detail. But it takes me back to the very first time that I really dealt with my body issues. And I'm not going to say that I'm 100% there. I'm way ahead of where I used to be. Body issues only get me down for a few minutes versus a few hours. But I remember the day I was watching this documentary. I'm going to draw this out here for folks. And she said that, one of the first exercises, this lady in this documentary who works with children with eating disorders, she said one of the first things she does is have them write an affirmation and paste it in their mirror. And the affirmation simply says, I accept myself as I am. I accept myself as I am. And this is where I started becoming the sticky note queen, because this is what I did. I said, oh, that's easy to do. But something in my heart said, no, that's not easy to do. And I wasn't watching this documentary for me. I was watching it for my youth group because I wanted to preview it for my youth group. But I put that sticky on my mirror. And I'm telling you, it took me about 3 weeks of walking past it before I could read it without crying.
Yes.
And it took me probably 3 or 4 years after that, because this was right after my divorce when I came across this. It was probably 3 or 4 years after that before I ever said to myself, wow, I love myself and I love what I do. And so what he's saying here is, maybe you don't have faith in yourself today. Maybe life has told you that you're not good enough. Maybe your upbringing has told you that you're hopeless. Maybe you've had medical issues, or you've had an injury, or you've gotten false accusations at work and they've escorted you out like a criminal. Whatever it is that's come in and knocked you down, sometimes it can really take a number on our faith, even if we've been faithful for a long time. And so here, these are suggestions. These are suggestions that we can do to communicate to our subconscious mind. And I want everyone who already hasn't internalized this. I already put my pen back. I want everyone to take this challenge that I am worthy of abundance.
That's
Now,
good.
do I think that I, JJ Conway, deserve and am entitled to everything? I do, because I'm a child of the King,
Bingo.
and He made me worthy.
Yes.
When He grafted me into His kingdom and made me His adopted daughter, now I am worthy of it. Not necessarily because I'm just so amazing, although I am amazing, but because I've been grafted in, and because He's promised it to me. He said that see, there I go into preaching again. My Lord said that He came that I might have life and have it that more abundantly. That means that somehow, some way, He decided you get it.
Yes.
And I want everybody in this call to feel like you can have it, because you can. Even if you don't share my faith today, you still share in the abundance of a God who loves you
Absolutely.
and
Absolutely.
wants you to understand that His word, His promises, they're for you. See, I'm going to just stop now, because we're not supposed to be preaching on this one, but I just
No.
I just really feel like somebody is feeling hopeless, and they've tried this and tried that, and I don't want to offend anybody who's of another faith, but I feel like somebody has really been, if I could just be real, I feel like somebody watching has really been church hurt, and that was your last shred of faith, was your church. And now, because that's been taken away from you, and that's been pulled out from the rug, pulled out from under you, you don't even know where to turn anymore. And I just want to encourage you that this is for you. This abundance is for you. This abundance, this abundant life, this abundant health, this abundant wealth, this abundant spiritual growth, this abundant relationships, being able to even express these kinds of opinions, that abundance and freedom and flow of time and money to do that, it's for you. And we're just asking you to take a step and believe it. And if you don't believe it today, find an affirmation that works for you, and get with that sticky and put it on your mirror and say it to yourself every time you walk past it. I accept myself as I am. I am worthy of abundance. I'm okay. I remember when Paul Martinelli gave me that one. I'm okay. I've always been okay. I will always be okay.
That
I
got me
will.
through. That got me through so many things. People say, and I'm like, you know what? I'm okay. And if I'm really not, as I'm thinking, I'm like, but I'm gonna be okay no matter what happens. People tell you all the time, I'm gonna be okay. There's no other way I can be. And I said it just like you. All of this is here. I'm heir to all of this.
That's right.
And it's gonna pull no matter what my situation is right now. I have access to everything here.
That's
All I
right.
have to do is ask. And somehow, some way, things just came to me. When I was in need, didn't know when my next meal was going to come. Somebody
Yes.
brought over food. Money appeared in my account. I said, you know what? I don't have extra this. Checks showed up in my mailbox, because I have access to everything here, because I am a child of the Most High King. I ain't going to preach either. I'm not a preacher, y'all. But if all of this is his, all of this is mine. But you got to tap into it. You have to ask for it. You have to tap into your faith. You have to believe that it can happen for you. You have to believe that you are deserving and worthy, just like you said, of that. And that's where I said there's been several times when that has showed up in my life so strong that I couldn't turn my head and say, you know what? I got the very thing, not just something similar to it, but I got the very thing that I asked for. I got the very thing. Hey, got the very thing that I called upon, I called out for. It showed up on my behalf, and I know where it came from. And it is that power of faith, truly believing that idea mixed with that belief that really changes everything. Everything. So, yeah.
Everything. And then what happens is, over time, and it may be tomorrow for some of you, but it may take a little time. It took a little time for me. I guess I'm more hard-headed than most. But over time, you get to a point where you really do trust the process, and you really do trust that God has equipped you and resourced you, that you are fully equipped and resourced to accomplish everything that's in your mind. There's a saying that if He brings you to it, He'll bring you through it, and that's usually used in time of trauma and trouble and distress. But I think of it also as ideas. I feel like the awareness doesn't even enter into our minds to do something or to pursue something unless it is time for us to walk in it.
Yes.
See, when I've been in Stephenville for a year. I have asked my husband, do we have any radio stations or local TV channels? And I don't really do a lot of secular music or a lot of TV because it really does distract me from the word. And so I really don't do a whole lot of those things. And I knew I could have searched, but just somehow it just didn't enter into my awareness to search. And I've been here for a year, and then all of a sudden, everywhere I turn, KSTV, go to narrate the football game. There I am with the radio guys. Go over here. Here I am with more radio guys. I'm like, it's always been in the back of my heart to be in radio, but it didn't enter into my awareness until I was ready to step out on it here. And then all of a sudden, boom, 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 radio everywhere. Well,
Yeah.
where do you think that came from? I'm not going to sit down and say, oh, I can't do that. I'm new to town. Oh, I can't do that. No, if it wasn't for me, it would never, my eyes would have never seen it. It's like I keep holding up this orange post-it note. Okay? I keep holding up this orange post-it note. And everywhere you go for like the next hour, you're going to see orange everywhere. Because I keep calling to attention this orange post-it note. But if I hadn't paid attention to it, if you hadn't paid attention to it, the orange was still in your room. The orange was still on the TV. There was that orange car at the store that's always parked there. Weird orange car. It's always been there. You just never paid attention to it. But now it's entered into your awareness, the color orange. And so it's the same way with our faith. Our faith helps us connect. It helps us connect the desires that we have for our future to what really could happen. And the thing for me is, I know the translation that Kamille recited from what said faith is the confidence. I do like the authorized version that says substance. I know it's not used in the way that I'm about to use it, okay? But when I think about English and literature, I think it's a fitting description and a fitting adaptation of the word, because when you have faith, it causes you to move in a way that is physical and real. And so I like to tell people, you tell me you got faith, let me see your substance, because faith is the substance. And I don't see no substance yet, right? And I went through my life saying I believed, saying that God's word says that I'm going to prosper and be in health. But you know what? My life didn't have any substance. I wasn't working out. I wasn't managing my food. I wasn't researching how to keep my bones from aging. I wasn't looking on how to manage wealth. I'll tell you what, one of the things that we talked about in some of the keynotes that I've been giving lately is I couldn't become a millionaire. Because every time the Lord gave me something, I felt guilt tripped and manipulated into giving it to people who partied and shopped and QVC'd and took travel, all their money away. But then they want to guilt trip me because I made it. And the Lord could never allow me to have more. I was never going to have more because all I was going to do is waste it. I wasn't going to use it for a purpose. I didn't know how to say no. And you say, well, what does that have to do with faith? Well, when you have faith that the Lord's going to give you something, when you have faith that your business is going to give you something, when you have faith that you're going to have this wealth and this abundance, you learn how to manage it. And so for me, when I think about evaluating my faith, I find myself a lot saying, like the folks that were praying, Lord, I believe, but help thou my unbelief. And increase my faith. I have faith, but increase thou my faith, because I can tell by my actions. I can tell by the fact that I watched 4 hours of TV tonight. My faith is slipping. My faith in my business success is slipping when I played 4 hours of a video game on my phone. I know nobody else does that. Only I do that. But so for me, those are things that for me are telltale signs that my faith is slipping, and I need to go back to basics, pull out that desire statement, pull out those affirmations, the repeated instructions, and my auto suggestion things that I have made of my own tapes and really dig into what's blocking me. And a lot of times what's blocking me is a lack of faith.
And let me say this too, JJ. Sometimes, when we have that faith, we have this belief that it'll come. We do all the things that are necessary. We talk about auto suggestion. But the thing is that we have free will too. So sometimes those things come and we'll reject them, because we have the power to accept or reject them. We've been asking for them. And when they come, we turn our head to it and we say, well, I'm not sure that that's for me. I'm not sure that, is this really mine? I know I asked for it, but it's not. And so we start rejecting the fact that that thing really manifested and that you manifested that. You had faith and you believed that that could be yours. And then you start saying, oh, well, no. And then we go back to, I'm not worthy of it. So why would it come to me? Well, you had faith that it was going to come. And the moment it shows up, we reject it, and it's like, so we have to be careful that when we do that, and where auto suggestion is about getting it into our subconscious mind, making that subconscious thing conscious, a part of what we accept in these things, that we don't turn around and reject the very thing that we've been asking for, believing for, that we understand how we can still turn it off as we're saying, like you say, please help my unbelief. We have faith on one end and unbelief on, a lack of faith on the other. And so we have to be very careful of that, so that we choose to accept as ours the things that we've been praying for, we've been asking for, and that they become a part of who we are and how we now operate and all those types of things, but that we don't turn around and slap that thing in the face.
Right.
And then we, again, like you said, now we done messed up our own channels. You know what I mean? We keep getting it, and then it's finally like, well, you don't really want it. Obviously, you don't really want it. You know what I mean? Did all this to get where you want, and then you turn around and say, no, I don't think that was for me.
I mean, haven't you ever done that with somebody? Haven't you ever done it with somebody? You have moved mountains to help them get ahead. You've helped them get their money they need to apply for that next apartment. You've helped them study so they can pass the SAT, or you've helped them, you've tutored them for hours and hours. You've opened up doors, you've made phone calls, and then they just, for whatever reason, they don't walk through it. That's what us, with our dreams and our desires and our hopes, and then the whole universe opens up to us, and we're like, oh, you know what, I'm that can't really be God. That's not for me. I'm nothing. Who am I? No, it's time for us to walk in every ounce of the abundance that has been promised to us. Woo.
Absolutely, absolutely, absolutely. That's just so powerful. Like when you were just saying, and that's that, getting that, really believing that you are deserving, that, you're asking for, you're fully resourced to carry it out. And when we get it, sometimes that doubt starts seeping in. Those self-limiting beliefs start seeping in. And we have to be, I do this thing now where I have these thoughts, you guys, and I'm serious. I check them. The moment I feel them, I challenge them right there. And I go, is this true? Do I really want this? Is this what I really asked for? Why am I, in my mind about to reject the thing that I asked for? And I stop it, and instantaneously everything changes. When I start feeling this negative, I'll stop and I'm like, hold on, let me evaluate this before I ruin the very thing that I've asked for, and then, do I really want it? Yes. Did I ask for it? Yes. Did I work hard for it? Yes. So why am I doubting it now that it showed up in my life? Are the things that I'm hearing, are they true? No, they're not. Well, stop it, girl. Pull up your bootstraps, get yourself together, and let this thing, and then my mood will totally shift and change. And then I'm able to accept that thing that is knocking on my door that I asked for. So it's really important that, while we're having this phase, that we understand that we have to challenge those other things that are working as well. Because where there's good, there's bad. Where we have this faith, there's this unbelief. Where we have these, so we have to make sure that, again, where our attention goes, our energy flows. And so whichever one you feed, that's the one that wins, right?
That's right. That's right.
We have to say, no, my faith is stronger than this fear. My faith is more. I want this more than I want the same thing I've been having. And so, there's a test of my faith, but my faith is gonna win. That's what I say.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I like that one. You made that reference to the two wolves, the parable of the two wolves. I guess it's a native parable, but you've got the fight in you, and whichever one wins is the one you feed the most. And for me, when I think about that, I think about how much of my life have I spent feeding anger, self-doubt, disappointment, self-pity. It's just as easy to believe that these things are going to come to pass. It's just as easy to believe that it won't work out as it is to believe that it will. And the cool thing that happens is over time, and this is kind of what I was saying earlier, is that over time you start living in that flow. And you just know that the right resources and everything will show up, and it's a shift in your mindset. It's such a shift. Some of you today that are watching, either whether you're watching it live or you're watching it later, you've never gone for a week without beating yourself up inside, a month without beating yourself up inside. Oh, I'm so dumb. Oh, I'm so this. Oh, I'm so that. Oh, I'm so that. You don't even know what it's like to be free of that negativity. I want to encourage you today to take action according to what's in this book and have faith that what you desire will come to pass. He says that you want to conduct yourself just as you would. I'm on page 57. Conduct yourself just as you would if you were already in possession of the material thing which you are demanding. So when I decide that I'm going to go do this thing, I'm going to walk and carry myself as if I have already received it. It has already happened. It
Yeah.
makes even if you don't get that thing, it still makes a difference in your execution, your energy, and the opportunities that open up. And then when you begin to walk in those energies, the opportunities come to you, not you having to chase after it.
Yes.
And I think about the very first time that I borrowed somebody's belief that I could have a $50,000 program. Okay. I mean, that they sat me down and we walked through and we outlined, and they're like, yeah, you're gonna have 5,000 down and $500 a month, and it was gonna do this, and it's gonna do this, and it's gonna do this. And I was like, I don't know how that's gonna happen, but he seems to believe it. I'm just gonna roll with it, and we're just gonna walk like it happened. And well, I'm gonna tell you what, that year I didn't have a 50. I didn't sell not a single one of those $50,000 programs. I'll tell you what, I didn't. I'm just gonna be real with you. I didn't sell one, but I'll tell you what I did do. I walked in on that confidence and got myself on stages to speak to thousands of people. I got myself on stages with greats like Les Brown. I got myself in places to open up so many other opportunities that I don't need to sell that program. I don't even offer that program anymore. All right. So I want to encourage you today. Walk in it. Walk in it. Let your faith be that confidence. Let your faith be that substance. Walk as if you're already in the possession of what you want. You want to make another $100,000 this month, or maybe you want to go from making $100,000 last year to making 100,000 every month. Walk as if you already have it.
Yes.
Walk as if you already have it.
I think when you said that, you talk about faith as a substance. In the book on page, it's on page 58, line 103, and it says, I love this line: faith is the eternal elixir, which gives life, power, and action to the impulse of thought. Man, man, man. I had to read that about 3 times. I'm going to read it one more time just because I love it so much. And it
Yes,
says,
yes,
faith
yes.
is the eternal elixir, which gives life, power, and action to the impulse
Action.
of thought. And it's that thing, thought is energy and everything like that is present in all places, all times, and everything. But when you add faith, mountains begin to move. And I don't know about you, but I'm feeling real good about that right now. I feel it in my shanana, food for my soul. But I thought about that. And then it also says in the book, faith is the only known antidote for failure. And that's on line 110.
Yep.
And
Yep.
it's like you have to have faith that failure isn't really real. You know what I mean? There is this thing called failure, but you can't believe in the failure itself, so to speak. And if you believe in that thing that's failure, you also have to believe in its opposite equivalent, which is success, right? So your faith in succeeding must be so strong that failure isn't an option. And when I was growing, when you were talking about believing on somebody else's or believing in somebody else's belief for you, it was
Yeah.
a time when I used to push my airmen and my friends and stuff to do things outside of their box, right? And they used to always be like, why you make me do this? And I'm like, I won't let you fail. I won't
Mhm.
let you. And they be like, but I don't know. What if I do fail? Or what if this doesn't turn out? And I'm like, I promise you, I won't let you fail. And I let them take center stage. And I always told them, but I'll be in the background. I'm going to guide
Mhm.
you. I'm going to catch you if you fall. I'll be here to put you back on track, but I won't let you fail. And so they believed me. And so they started, doing those things. And what they didn't know, though, that my faith was very strong. I always prayed, I asked for guidance, for provision, for protection, and God always came through for me. They didn't know I was operating on my faith, but here's the thing, though. They had faith in me, which then translated to faith in themselves. Once they began stepping out on faith and seeing that they were actually capable of doing it, then they began leading events on their own. They began organizing stuff on their own. They called me years later and was like, "Thank you so much for pushing me outside my box. I got
Yep,
all kind of
yep, yep.
accolades from people of all levels and all this, saying that, it was great." But they believed in my faith in them until it became their faith in them. And then they became or started operating in their own faith, and they started like moving mountains.
That's
And it's
right.
a crazy, crazy thing, but that whole thing, that it's just the elixir that gives life, power, and action to the impulse of thought. And even when they didn't think they were thinking it themselves, it was still
Mhm.
giving them life and power, and it was moving mountains on their behalf because they believed in my faith in them, not necessarily their own at the time, but until it
Right.
became their faith in themselves, and they saw what they were capable of, and they kept moving and kept moving. And then that elixir, it doesn't just stay with it passes on, and they started doing the same for theirs until
Mhm.
there's a legacy of people that are doing, that are capable, that have faith, and that continue to, and I tell them, they said, well, I tap into God. Y'all know I be praying over here. Like, I don't have all the answers, but I know that when I need them, they show up. You know what I
Mhm.
mean? They show up, and they'll show up on your behalf as well.
That's
So
right.
that was just a powerful statement for me for both of those things.
Mhm. Mhm.
Yeah.
Mhm. The life, power, and action to the impulse of thought. Ooh,
Yes.
action. And that's the thing. A lot of times we get worried about failure, and it failure is really, it's like the myth of risk that we talked about. There's so much that we can look in our lives and say, well, I messed this up and I messed that up. Well, it's really only failure if you stopped, and it's really only failure if you're not learning from it. Even when I failed to do XYZ, it's only failure if I don't pick myself up and say, oh, that didn't work the way I needed it to work, and that's not consistent with my dream, and that behavior isn't consistent with the kind of person who has what I say I want in 10 years. So I'm going to adjust and grow. But I
Exactly.
also want to encourage, sometimes our lack of faith is because we have a lack of confidence. We don't have any self-confidence. And I know 5 years ago when I started this journey, and some of you who may be watching this either live or later, you're gonna be like, wait, she's been teaching this book since like 2007. Well, yes, but I didn't really know I didn't really know what I was teaching. They say that the best way to learn something is to teach it, right? And so I was doing the best I could with what I had, and the Lord was adding the increase. but but the thing is, I realized about 5 years ago that really the biggest part of my issue was the lack of self confidence, and a world that continued to beat me down. And no matter how many things I accomplished, I just could not move forward. And so today we're going to share with you at the end of this faith chapter, or kind of toward the end of it, maybe in the middle, we've got a self-confidence formula. And I'm going to give you a tool. Those of you who have paid for the course, it's already been in your box, but in your portal, but you may not have realized it. And so I want to talk about this, and then Kamille, I'm going to let you give a few thoughts, but then I want to share with them the success timeline.
Okay.
I think that's going to move the needle. We've got the first exercise that we started off talking about in the beginning, the desire statement. And then we've got the success timeline, which is what I needed in my life to overcome my lack of faith in me, my lack of faith for me, that these promises were for me. And so on page 61, we've got the self-confidence formula, and he walks us through. And I don't know if you want me to walk through it, Kamille, or if you want to jump in. I don't want to hog all the airtime here, but
Yeah.
she's always struck me, whether she's felt this inside or not. She's always struck me as that very confident senior NCO that was going to tell it like it is, was going to direct things and get it done. And I almost hate to say this, but it's like, you're the kind of person I would have wanted on all my teams, because I knew you'd make me look good. and I had to learn. I really did have to learn to let people like you do their job.
I appreciate people like you.
And stop trying to do it all myself, but let other people who have the expertise and have the authority and they have the respect of their troops, let them do their job. And your job is to make sure they got the resources, and your job is to fight the battles, and your job is to make sure that you can answer and build the relationships with other commanders so that you can solve the problems. But don't get in people's way now.
Right. That's let me do my job.
But here's my thing. The last time I was over an organization of 400 and something personnel, where I didn't actually rate on any of them because they were a conglomeration of labs, and you had all of these people. I had the rank. My name was at the top of the food chart. But if you asked me deep down inside how I felt about myself, I had no self-confidence. I put on a brave face when I went to work because that's how I got my job done.
Right.
But then I would come home and I would have to face myself in the mirror, feeling like a hypocrite, feeling like a fraud. So if anybody else has been through that, has walked that journey, I encourage you to walk through this self-confidence formula. And he says here, first, I know that I have the ability to achieve the object of my definite purpose in life. Therefore, I demand of myself persistent, continuous action toward its attainment. And I here and now promise to render such action. So basically what he's saying here is, I know that I have the ability to get that thing that I really desire. So I'm telling myself, I'm giving myself a command, and I'm going to make myself follow this command. And we may not even get past this paragraph today, y'all, because some of us have been giving ourselves commands and failing to do them for years, for decades. How many other people always said, in the morning, I'm going to wake up and I'm going to go work out and I'm going to read my Bible and I'm going to pray and I'm going to kiss my kids?
Never happens.
And it didn't happen for decades. I'm going to do this. And you know what my subconscious said? Yeah, sure. Right. Let's see this. Let me get my tea.
Right.
Because it already knew we weren't making that change. All right. So I know, because I know I have this ability, I'm demanding of myself. This isn't talking about anybody else. This isn't making my husband get on board with my dream. This isn't making my teenagers act right. They're teenagers. They got hormones. They don't even know how to act right now. All right. We just got to keep them covered and lead as best we can so they get through that. All right. You're further along in this journey than I am. So I know you commiserate with what I'm going through.
Yes. Totally understand.
But I think back to where I was. I mean, when I was 16, I thought I knew everything. And my mom was just the dumbest person alive, you know? And I think I was well into my 40s before I realized, mom knew some things. I think having kids changes that. And I had kids later. So it took me later than other people to realize. I'm like, mom was right.
Yeah.
I don't know if she'll ever see this video or ever know that I knew that she was right, but she was right.
I went crying back to my mother too. So yeah, I know.
All right, so I'm going to demand of myself. This is a you and you deal. This is about me and me. This is about me. This is not about controlling everybody else. This is about controlling me. All right. I demand myself persistent, continuous action towards its attainment. And I here and now promise that I'm going to do it. Okay. Second, I realize that the dominating thoughts of my mind will reproduce themselves in outward physical action, and they will gradually transform themselves into physical reality. Therefore, because I know that what I'm thinking about will show up, okay, like that saying, what you eat in private shows up in public. What you think in private shows up in public. Anything you do in private, really, ultimately, for the discerning individual, shows up in public, right? Because I know this, that it's eventually going to translate to what really happens around me. I'm going to concentrate my thoughts for 30 minutes daily upon the task of thinking of the person I intend to become, thereby creating in my mind a clear mental picture of that person. And so I used to always really poo-poo the process of meditation, because my faith doesn't teach me to empty my mind. And a lot of people talk about meditation in a way of empty your mind and just receive. And I now look at meditation as a time of prayer. So that's what I've always used to teach. But I now look at meditation in a different way. So it's not just an active prayer, but I actually do take separate time from my prayer time to meditate on the person that I'm becoming and the person that I want to be and who I want to be and and what I want to have. And so I don't have it with me now, but I have a thing that I shared in my Bible studies called a confession list. And I built mine off of scriptures. You don't have to do that, but I built mine off of scriptures, which basically says, these are all the things that I am going to be. And I read that list and meditate on that list and kind of pray that list over myself. And that is something that you can do. You can write down these thoughts, because you know that what you're thinking about is going to produce itself outwardly. I am going to think of the person I intend to become. So I'm going to think of that desire statement. Who do I have to be in order to have that? And I'm going to think about that, and I'm going to really focus on it, and I'm going to feel it intensely, down to feeling how tight the jacket is, or how cute the hair is, or how good I smell, what substances I'm touching, all of that down to the nth detail for at least 30 minutes a day. Third, I know that through the principle of autosuggestion, any desire that I hold in my mind will eventually seek expression through some practical means of attaining the object behind it. All right. Therefore, I will devote 10 minutes daily to demanding of myself the development of self-confidence. And let me tell you something about self-confidence. This is his self-confidence formula, right? But one thing about self-confidence is it's not about accolades. And I'm not a counselor. I don't pretend to be one. I'm a leader. Okay. And one thing I've learned in several years of leadership is that self-confidence doesn't come just from me saying, you did a good job, I value you, and I appreciate you. What confidence comes from is actually doing something, doing a good job, accomplishing something, and making something happen. So that's why, oh man, what was his name? It's not McChrystal, I don't think, but one of the top generals gave this talk, and he said, make your bed every morning. Make your bed every morning, because at least then in your mind, you've made your bed, you've straightened up this, you've done this, you've done this, you've done that. Get yourself a morning routine. And by time you get out the door, you got 6 or 7 things that you have done and accomplished, and you have boosted your self-confidence. Even just that infinitesimally small little bit, you have boosted your self-confidence because you've accomplished something.
And you have to give yourself permission to do that. And
what's
I
that?
just want to say that you have to give yourself permission to acknowledge that. A lot of people don't do that. And self-confidence comes from self. There's nothing anyone else can do to boost your self-confidence. It has to come from within. And oftentimes we will, again, minimize those accomplishments. Making your bed is a huge accomplishment. Brushing your teeth in the morning, taking care of your hygiene, because there are some people that can't do that. That is an accomplishment worth celebrating, especially for people who are suffering from lower self-confidence, or if you're at a state you're trying to build it. You have to give yourself permission to acknowledge and to celebrate even the smallest of victories. Those small things that you fit, because it's in the finish.
That's right. That's right. We've got to celebrate those things, and we have to look for those things. And so fourth, he says, I have clearly written down a description of my definite chief aim in life. So that's the desire statement we were talking about. And I will never stop trying until I shall have developed sufficient self-confidence for its attainment. And so we're basically saying, don't give up on you. I am going to declare over myself that I will not give up on myself. And sometimes we need to see that in black and white, because many of us have given up on ourselves. I told you, I thought I was good until I put this on my door, on my mirror. And then I realized, no, my confidence and self-esteem isn't where I thought it was, because if it was, this wouldn't make me cry every time I saw it for 3 weeks. All right. Fifth, I fully realize that no wealth or position can long endure unless built on truth and justice, Therefore, I will engage in no transaction which does not benefit all whom it affects. I will succeed by attracting to myself the forces I wish to use and the cooperation of other people. Now, he goes on to talk about how, well, I'll just read it. I will induce others to serve me because of my willingness to serve others. I will eliminate hatred, envy, jealousy, selfishness, and cynicism by developing love for all humanity because I know that a negative attitude toward others can never bring me success. I will cause others to believe in me because I will believe in them and in myself. And he actually says you should write out this formula for yourself, sign your name to it, and commit it to memory and repeat it out loud till it sticks. All right. And so I want to pay attention to this section here about eliminating hatred, jealousy, envy, selfishness, and cynicism by developing love for all of humanity. This is another one of those things that really came to a head for me when I was pastoring. It's a really embarrassing time for all of this to come to a head for you is when you are a religious leader. But the results speak for themselves. And he's saying here, I'm going to eliminate these things because if I have these things, if I have a negative attitude towards people, I won't be successful. And what I had to come face to face with, and after the first year of my ministry, when it did not grow the way that I thought it should, because I'm so awesome, I had to come face to face with the fact that, you know what, something's going on with me because I'm not being successful here, and people aren't willing to help me. And I can blame everybody else, but if it keeps happening over and over and over with different people, the only common denominator is me. And so if this person gets help and that person gets help, but nobody wants to help me, well, it might just be me.
So true.
And I had to really humble myself. And then the Lord revealed to me, I didn't love people the way that I thought I did, or that I said I did, or that I believed I did, because I'm a good person. And what do good people do? Good, nice people. We love people. I would volunteer for you. I would give you my money, give you everything, but I didn't love you. I was cynical. And in some cases, now I was always a giving person, but in some cases I was very selfish. If there were only two hams left, I was taking them. I won't leave you one. I had a lot of people to feed for Thanksgiving. You should have been a little earlier. I had a lot of envy and jealousy and hatred that were disguised as self-righteousness.
Mm, mm.
And in order for us to really develop self-confidence, we have to clean house. And if you're at where I was at, well, let me be a testimony to you. You can clean house and you can turn things around, and you'll begin to walk in that confidence, and you'll begin to walk in that flow of abundance that has been promised to you.
Yes.
It's there for the taking.
Yes, yes.
So when we get to the end of this today, I'm going to do a little bonus teaching on the success timeline, which I think is a tool that will help you implement all of this when you're feeling a lack of self-confidence and a lack of a faith. That I think you can use that success timeline to really move the needle forward and jolt yourself back to feeling faith and feeling confident again.
Awesome. Awesome. Yep.
There's so much more to this chapter. I almost feel like we need a part 2.
It is. I have so many things that are highlighted here. I'm looking at the time, so I don't want to go too much, into a whole lot more. But that self confidence, just thinking about it, building my own. Everybody asked me kind of where I got that from, and it was from doing exactly what you did. I had to humble myself. I had to really look at, because it's the way that I'm feeling about myself is what I project on others, or how I'm thinking. So I had to go back and think about what I thought about others to really understand what I thought about myself. Why am I putting that self judge or that judgment on them? What am I really judging about myself? And when I did that, I took that time, I started seeing a lot of flaws, a lot of areas that I needed to clean up, in a lot of areas, like you said, that self-righteousness. I'm a good person, I'm this, and I should do this. But I was a good person with sometimes ugly thoughts and sometimes ugly ways, and that translated into, by your fruits they'll know you, by what you do. When you reap what you sow, and when you're not reaping what you think you expect to reap, you probably have to look at what you're actually sowing. Am I sowing seeds of envy and jealousy and hatred and, all those other things that he was talking about, dishonesty or judgment or any of that kind of stuff? What am I sowing that good fruit is not showing up in my life? And why am I jealous of other people's good fruit when I know that my seeds are soured? You know what I mean? So I really had to do that. And when I started doing that and started loving people for who they are, stop judging them so harshly. And, look, we're all God's children. We all made differently. There's some things that I just need to accept that they are, because I want you to accept me the way that I am. There's some things that I have to, whether I want to be connected or not, that's a different thing, but I can still love you. And I learned how to separate those things. And then good things began happening in my life. Doors began opening in my life. Areas that I never expected to be able to operate in have become open for me to operate in. And so, it really did. I had to humble myself and take a good look at what my thoughts about myself, because we look through the lens of really how our own experiences and how we feel about ourselves. When you raise that self-confidence, it's amazing what it'll do for you. It'll be amazing the doors that it will open for you by having a healthy self-confidence. And it is faith in and the fact that God created me to do some things. I was purposed to do some things, and there's some areas that I have to have a certain level of self-confidence. Now I'm just like, for the first time in a long time, a few years ago anyway, I was able to say I love me. People say, "No, well, don't you need it?" I'm like, I absolutely love me. I love my company. I don't need a whole lot of other company. I love people. Don't get me wrong, but I'm not uncomfortable being alone anymore.
Right.
In my own
Right.
space
Right.
and my own thoughts. And so I love the person that I'm becoming. I haven't become fully her yet, but I'm on my way. And I'm loving what I'm seeing, especially as compared to where I came from. So it's for me, it's been a great journey. It's been a difficult journey, looking at those things and not being able to look at yourself and say you love yourself, or looking in the mirror and looking past yourself every single day, because you were uncomfortable with what you saw, or actually never looking within. You can look at yourself and never look within. And then what does that speak back to you? And that was a scary feeling. But it's necessary for your growth. It's necessary.
Absolutely necessary for your growth. Oh
Yeah.
my goodness. As I get ready to put up the banner in case somebody else wants to jump in and get the full recordings of the class, I remember the day. I remember the day, the first time that I said, I love myself and I love what I do. I had just hung up with a client, and really significant. She was giving me an update of, been a couple years that we'd been working together, and just everything had changed in her life. And I was just like, I love who I am and what I do. And in that moment, it was like the spirit quickened me. That is the first time you've ever said that. And now my life is the other way around. I am so filled with thankfulness and gratefulness for who I am and who I'm becoming, that I pretty much walk in, I love who I am and what I do. And then it's an aberration wherever something comes and it brings me down.
Yes.
And I actually have to be like, whoa, where did that, wait, why am I feeling like I'm so this and I'm so that, where did that come from? That's not part of our normal life anymore. But I remember the days where that was all that was in my brain. And these steps that we've talked about today will really help. And so I'm going to go ahead and close out with something. And then me and Kamille are going to stay behind, and we are going to record a lesson on auto suggestion. Now, these classes we're doing on Wealth Building Wednesday, they are free for the taking, but the other juicy bits of Think and Grow Rich are in the class. So if you want to get this juicy lesson that we're about to record, you want to go to this link here on the bottom of your screen and get in while the getting is good. Because once we're done closing out the class, it goes back up to regular price. And so I've had a lot of people come back to me and they're like, hey, I want that discount. And I'm like, I'm sorry. I got to honor the people that jumped in when they were supposed to, the people that took action, the people that knew that this was their next best step. And so if that's you today, go ahead and do that while I'm calling up my screen so that I can show you this very special exercise. And then we're going to end the public recording, and we're going to record something very special for those of you who are in the paid version of the class. Go ahead and check out that link while I pull this up for you. Let's see. I am going to full screen mode. There we go. There we go. I am going to apologize to my co-host. I had intended to rebuild one of these with both of us in it. And I didn't realize until tonight that I had not gotten around to doing that. That wasn't on my to-do list because I thought I'd already done it. So this is the same success timeline, but it's labeled for a different class that I'll be teaching in spring. So what we have here, let me see if I can make that bigger for you. Okay. This is called the success timeline. And this is a very powerful exercise that I like to do in conjunction with Think and Grow Rich, because we need to know that we have some successes. And there is a version of this in your portal, but it again, it doesn't have Kamille because it's from last year. So I will get on that and edit it. But don't you wait. You go ahead and download this today, and you go ahead and work on this today. Or if you just have a piece of paper, draw this out. This is basically the time of your life from birth to how old you are today. You have a midpoint, and then you're going to have a line for 12 years. We put 12 years because that's about the age of reason, where you can begin to accept or reject thoughts, okay? So before the age of reason, whether it happens for you at 12 or 11 or 13, before that time, generally speaking, we just accept everything. Everything is poured into us. We just accept it. We suck it in like a sponge, okay? But what I want you to do is take a stab at writing all of the successes that you've had between and throughout your whole life. And I'm going to tell you, the first time I did this, where'd Kamille go? There we go. The first time that I did this, Melanie Massey, right? And who does the Creation Station.
Yeah.
The very first time that I did this, I was in her living room, and she was like, "You've got to put something down." I'm like, "I don't have anything. I don't have any successes." And I may have told this story last week, so I won't take forever. But she began to list the things that I had done and the things that I had accomplished, and she's like, "You did this and you did this." I was like, "Oh yeah, I guess I can put that down." Yeah, well, I guess I can put that down. But it's not really a success. I had a qualifier. I had a reason why everything that I was successful at wasn't really a success. It wasn't really good enough. I ran the Marine Corps marathon, but it wasn't good enough because I was too slow. And I didn't get my finisher's coin because they were all packed up and gone by the time I crossed the finisher's line. Just thing after thing after thing. For every success, I overshadowed it with some kind of failure or some kind of incompleteness or some kind of not good enoughness. And what this exercise challenges you to do is to really look at what you have done. And the more you go through this exercise, the more you'll be able to fill it out. And it will be something that helps you boost your confidence and increase your faith, because you did it before. And when the next crisis comes, you can do it again.
Yes, that's good. Can I end with one good line? I'm going to end with two. The last 3 lines of this book say, "There are no limitations to the mind except those we acknowledge. Both poverty and riches are the offspring of thought." So think about that for a little while. You choose. You choose. That's it. That's all I have.
And on that note, we are going to say goodnight. We hope we've given you plenty to think about, marinate on, let that marinate in your brain. And we will see you at the same time and place next week. But again, we're about to record a special bonus lesson on auto suggestion. So if you want in on that goodness, make sure you book into the class. With that, on behalf of myself and Kamille, my beautiful co-host, I will wish you all much success and be blessed. I'm JJ, and this is Kamille. Y'all take care and be blessed.
Bye-bye.